And we are live. Thank you.
Well, hi, everyone. As we swing around from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, this is the Awareness Task Force of the City of Salem Human Rights Commission. I'm Mike Waters, and I'm the chair of the task force. My pronouns are they and them, and I live in Ward 7. I will pass it to Tricarico to introduce themselves.
Hi, Tricarico. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm in Ward 2, and I'll pass it to Kathy.
Hi, my name is Kathy. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a resident of South Salem. Is everyone else city staff on the Zoom call?
Yeah. And perhaps Kathy and Marilyn, if you could just say hi and who you're here.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm Marilyn. Yes, I'm Marilyn Daly Blair, and I'm the director of Center 50 Plus, and I'm helping Gretchen by taking notes this evening. So, thank you. Good to see everyone.
And I'm Kathy Ersprung with the City of Salem, and I am the Community and Media Relations Specialist. And I'm here to provide communications support if you need it.
Excellent. Well, we do have quorum tonight, and I wondered if Kathy and Tricarico, if you had a chance to take a look at our April and May minutes.
I did. One question I have in the April minutes, I was not at the meeting and I was not a part of the task force. I don't know if I am able to participate in approving those minutes. I was for the May meeting though.
Yeah, how does that work, Marilyn? Keep us honest.
Ooh, so you read both sets, and you were only present for one of the meetings.
Right. I've only been to one prior task force meeting, and that was the May meeting.
And today we're voting on the June meeting notes.
April and May both.
April and May both.
Yeah.
Well, let's go. Were you trying to do them all in one approval, Mike?
Well, if we can, otherwise we would just do May with Kathy here, and we would need David to approve the April.
I would go ahead and do May.
All right, that sounds good. Would anybody like to move to approve May?
I'll move to approve the May minutes.
I'll second it.
I was hoping you would second it because there's not anyone else to do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, thank you. The May minutes are approved, and when we're rejoined by David, oh, that's Linnell. I was like, oh, there he is. That's Linnell's coming in. Hi, Linnell.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, always, always. Well, you joined just in time because we approved the minutes, and our opportunity now is to jump right into our main agenda item. Actually, Linnell, did you have a public comment, or do you want to just discuss with our agenda item?
I think I'd go for a small public comment.
Yeah.
Since I haven't, I helped with the survey last year, but I don't think I was part of this process, so I don't really know what's appropriate, so just let me know. But I just figured I'd tell you guys that doing the survey was amazing, and having the time to do more of them was really wonderful. I so valued that. But a piece that comes up afterwards, it's like as you're talking to people, especially if you're going to a place where they're gathered, like sometimes I would go to a place where people are getting a meal. So you do the survey, and then you're hanging out and talking, not like, see you bye. So then you're talking, and then you get so much more context beyond what's just in the survey. And a couple of things that came up were just really devastating for me to hear. And I feel like you guys should know this, but it might not be on the surveys. But we're hearing that some individuals are purposely going to parks and driving with their cars and honking horns and yelling at people with a loudspeaker and doing donuts. Some people are narrating on the loudspeaker what some of the homeless people are doing just to harass them. We've had men share that they've been beaten up by people who are sheltered. We've had women share that they have been raped by people who are sheltered. And we had one individual who shared that there was a story about somebody being chased by a homeless guy with a machete. And just by pure chance, I was talking to the guy with the machete. And what he shared was that people had come to the camp and were looking in his tent and taking pictures. So he came home and there's these people looking in his tent. So he grabbed the first thing that was there, which was his machete, and just kind of chased the person around. So when you hear just different perspectives, on one hand, it could sound like somebody, there's this dangerous, crazy homeless person trying to harm you with a machete. And then the other side of the story is, he came home and someone was in his tent or peeking into his tent. And it's like, what are you doing here? So he grabbed the first thing and just chased the person. He had no intention of macheting the guy to death or anything. But the conversations that happen around the survey, I feel, are as relevant about what kind of discrimination is happening as what you end up finding on the survey. And I don't know if there's a place for that kind of information to be shared, or just making sure you guys know that, because I think the problem is even bigger than what shows up on the surveys.
Thank you for that comment. That's really appreciated. And since the survey is our main topic tonight, rather than respond in a very inarticulate way to what you've just shared, maybe we just dive into talking about the survey and how we want to share it. Before I move on though, do any of the other task force members have anything they'd like to share?
I just had a question. I saw the students' presentation that they made at the last full Human Rights Commission meeting. Are there any other information or comments or any of their data been shared at this point, or are we still waiting on that? It seemed like Marianne was going to go back and look at the data in a few different ways based on commissioner feedback.
Yeah, and I wish Gretchen was here to keep me honest, because there was an email from Marianne, but I thought that the email indicated there was a little more she was yet to add to a library of information. So I believe that yes, we do have access to that information now, but I'm not 100% sure. And I have to admit, I haven't done a deep dive into it myself.
Okay. Because I know that was one piece that I think would be helpful is, in addition to what Lynelle is talking about, at the end, there was that space where people could write in comments. And I think we got a couple of examples, but it'd be nice to look at what those comments in their entirety were for some more context as well. I'm sorry, Marilyn, go ahead.
All I was going to say is I will just make note to Gretchen to circle back around with the information that she received from Marion. Is that correct? Would that be helpful, or do you have that already?
It would be good to circle back. I think we need to circle back with the full commission when that resource site is available, and let them all see the full breadth of information that Marianne's going to provide. As I think about this survey and how we communicate it, one of the things that was so much more compelling for me in the 2021 survey compared to 2020 was really the story of how the survey was done. And it was Lynelle's participation in particular, and the participation of the students in actually doing a deep dive into what our unsheltered community is experiencing. Now, I know, Lynelle, from your perspective, it's not that deep, right? Like it's just a sliver of what you know from your world. But I think for those of us on the commission, it was quite eye-opening. And what you see in the results is that there are two Salems. There's one Salem for people who are housed, who have access to resources. And there's another Salem for the unsheltered where the experience is much different and much more difficult and more challenging from a discrimination perspective. And so last year, we really did a summary of the results that we posted to the city website. And we talked with a Salem reporter about kind of the results on the survey. And we really focused on that. And I thought for this year, it might be really valuable to, in addition to talking about the results, to talk about the work that was done with Linnell, with the students, maybe even setting up Linnell and some of the students with that reporter to give a little bit more of a deep look at the results that we got from the survey, because I thought that was the most compelling story that I got out of it. But I wondered what committee members thought.
I'm looking at Tricarico thinking that they might have something to say. And my dog just started barking, so I'm sorry if there's some noise in the background. That sounds good to me. I think you're right. The survey is really revealing about how different the experience is based on what your circumstances are. Yeah. Your ideas sound good to me, Mike.
Yeah, it all sounds good to me. I think the more we can share about the community and the more we can humanize the folks that are living unsheltered right now, I think the more support we're going to be able to get to provide more resources and get city behind, opening up more shelters and beds and et cetera. So yeah, I'm all for it.
And there's getting the city behind it, but also working on that public perception around our unsheltered neighbors, and they are citizens of the city too. And I think that anything we can do to help sway that would be beneficial as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is your role from this point to develop recommendations to the full committee, and then based on their review of that, then make recommendations to city council? Is that the process that happens?
I think that I think that's more of a broader HRC function around how to resolve the issues that were identified in the survey. The awareness task force is about driving awareness of the HRC and of human rights issues in general in Salem. And so when I think about what this task force's role is, it would be to make sure that we disseminate the survey results broadly. And, again, I think the approach that I favor this year is around telling the story of the survey and how the survey was conducted and what we learned about unsheltered neighbors from the survey. And then I think additionally, as an awareness task force, one of the things we might want to tackle over the next year or so is really telling more of the story of our unsheltered neighbors, making sure that one, we're including that population in communications that we do out to our stakeholders about human rights, because so that is not a status currently that is included in Chapter 97. But it has been long an interest of the commission, probably about 2 or 3 years that we've talked about the issues that our unsheltered neighbors are facing as a commission. So, and there's been some work at the commission level also to look at, can we add unsheltered status, housing status as as a area in Chapter 97. So there's actually a work group on that. So as an awareness task force, I think our role can be around highlighting those issues, making sure those issues are included in communications, and that sort of thing. But it will be up to the broader HRC, I think, to determine what types of actions would be recommended to City Council to take. Does that make sense? And is that I'm looking at Marilyn and Kathy about whether am I speaking just randomly, or does that sound about right?
I think that sounds right. I think you know, the commission is tasked with making recommendations to the council. So, but I mean, you're certainly tasked with making recommendations to the commission.
Yeah.
So
That is correct.
Thank you.
And that takes me back to, I just want to make a correction. You asked if you needed to approve, if Kathy could vote on your notes, and you actually, as a subcommittee, have meeting notes. So it would be fine for you to vote to approve that by reading the information that is how you believe the meeting went, and vote as a group. It's not the same as your records of minutes from your commission itself. So just to let you know. Yes.
Do we want to do a quick approval of the April minutes then?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
It looks like Gretchen refers to them as meeting notes.
Ah,
I can second the motion.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
And then kind of following up on your question, Linnell, that is something that, you know, because the mayor made that really big ask of us to make some recommendations, that's going to be an ongoing conversation. So if there are things that you wanted to bring, I would encourage you to bring that to the greater HRC, you know, to be part of that conversation. And I would definitely welcome your input as we continue to work with the city on, you know, it's kind of an overall, I think the ask was how to make sure people feel safe in Salem. But to me, that absolutely includes our unsheltered neighbors, because they're at the most risk of feeling unsafe a lot of the time, right? Especially the stories you're telling us. So anything that you have that you want to bring to the greater commission, please do, because your input is always so valuable.
Thank you so much. I guess maybe I would just add something, since you guys would be going to the full committee, in the question about, you know, what would help somebody who's been discriminated against. And there's like support groups and anonymous reporting and things like that. And almost every individual I spoke with who was unsheltered shared, you know, like, how am I going to fit that in? That's like another thing to do. That helps me feel better about something that shouldn't have happened in the first place. So each thing, almost every person is like, what would help? Get them to stop. So I see that as a huge education task, because trying to help someone feel better about being discriminated against is useful, but especially in a population where transportation and survival and so many other things are just higher priority than going to a support group to try to deal with the trauma of ongoing discrimination. It's just, can we make it stop? And, you know, when we have people going to parks and harassing people on purpose, you know, could police enforcement be a bigger thing? And could education be a role of the city? And maybe it shouldn't be, but is that a consideration? So just as you guys are going to be taking this to the full committee, this population, most of them are like, it's about make it stop.
One thing we do at the city is we have regular meetings with, is it okay if I speak? Sorry. They do at the city is have regular meetings we have regular meetings with the local media. And we could certainly take this to the local media and connect whoever is the spokesperson, or maybe you and Linnell, if that makes sense, with the media and see if they're interested in, which I imagine they would be interested in doing a story on that. The other, you know, some other options for communication would be press release, obviously, and social media, and with links to the full survey probably, and highlights of the survey in the press release.
Yeah, last year, I drafted up kind of a statement, and then I also spoke with Safara Harrell at Salem Reporter. And if you have other media contacts, I am more than willing to speak sort of as the chair of the task force. But I really think to broaden it to Linnell and her perspective. And I also know from Marianne, and I think Marianne was interviewed last year as well, that there were some really touching stories that the students had written about their experience of interviewing the unsheltered neighbors. And it might even be of interest to the reporter to talk with the students about what they experienced through that as well. So there might be an opportunity to really deepen and broaden the voices. I mean, you guys know I can talk all day, but I'm not the one who can really tell the story here. I think getting it direct from the source would be really helpful. Kathy, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to kind of draft up some notes again, like I did last year, for the communications team to take a look at and see if that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and then if we could get some people if we can get some of the students to volunteer to be interviewed, if that's what the reporters want, then I would feel like we could take it to the media and at both the Reporter and the Statesman Journal, and
Excellent.
let them craft their own stories, because they're always going to be more prominent than probably what we would put in a press release. So
Excellent. Linnell, are you willing to participate in a process like that?
Sure. Have the stories been shared with you yet? The student stories?
I haven't seen them yet. I'm really looking
I'm
forward
gonna
to it.
email them to you. They are
Thank you.
so amazing. I'll email them after this meeting.
so
Thank
you could
you.
draw from those, or you could do direct interviews with the media, one or the other.
Yeah, I would want to ask their permission for many students that we would draw from, of course, but I can work that out with Marianne.
So she did give permission for me to share it with so I've already posted it to Facebook with their
Oh,
permission.
oh,
So I
great.
feel like maybe I think certainly you'd need permission from them to be interviewed, but as far as me sharing the stories with your task force, I feel like that permission has already happened.
I feel like at the last commission meeting, I think we talked about that, about sharing their stories.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. Linnell, probably the best way to facilitate that, because it would be to send it to Gretchen. Because we don't all carry each other's emails, because we're not supposed to deliberate outside of our official meetings, and that way Gretchen can make sure that the record's all appropriate.
Okay.
Not that we would be deliberating, but I don't honestly know everybody's email because of the way we do things.
Well, if there's anything you want to share with me for communications preparation, I don't think we have, I don't see where we have chat in this room, but my email is Ursprung, URSPRUNG @cityofsalem.net.
I really appreciate the extra communication support, Kathy. And what I can do is that gives me some assurance in being able to draft a little more quickly and not overthink everything I'm writing to know another communications person's looking at it. So what I could do is draft up some notes and send to you and Gretchen, and then we can let the whole awareness task force take a quick look at it as well. So thank you. That's wonderful to have that extra support. I know, I love my comms people.
It's always better when we work together, right?
That's totally right. We've talked quite a lot about how the story that we want to tell is a little bit of the story of the survey, and of course of the important work that we did with our unsheltered residents. I do want to ask the community members, when you think about the overall results of the survey, are there key points that stick out for you that you think are important to talk about?
Were you asking that of me? I'm sorry.
I was asking our committee members who watched the presentation from the students. And the students did a great job of they have a couple of summary slides at the end, and I was totally into cribbing that for what we talk about, but I didn't want to miss anything if there was something in particular, Kathy or Tricarico, that you thought that was a point that really hit home for me. Again, for me, I have to say it was the unsheltered story is what really hit home for me.
Yeah, and I guess part of me wants to see what else they were able to do with the results. If, Marianne had mentioned slicing the data in a few more ways, and seeing what some of those other comments were. But I think the conclusion, I'm looking at it on my screen. I think that the conclusions that the students came up with and their recommendations really, I don't disagree with anything that they had said in their presentation to us.
Yeah, what a terrific group of students, right?
Oh yeah.
They're so sharp.
Well, and at the very end there, develop a plan to decrease discrimination of those currently experiencing homelessness. That's,
yeah, pretty clear takeaway this year, I thought.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd want to highlight that we got such a better response this year, and that was in part due to a lot of volunteer work, like the Nell and the students going out. Because I think that's really important, that we didn't just kind of sit there and wait people to respond. There was an element of that, but we really were proactive, and the students and Linnell put a lot of hard work into making sure that people's voices were heard. And I do want to acknowledge that, because that's really hard to do. That's totally different than putting a quiz out on the internet. And I think it's part of what made the survey important and relevant, and something that we can really bring to city council and say, look, this is what's happening. Because how many times have we tried to make a suggestion and they kind of don't believe us that this stuff is happening? And this time we have some pretty tangible things that we can bring forward and say, hey, this is what's going on, and it's really not okay.
Thank you.
One other thing about the survey that stuck out to me was that when people were asked to rate the level of discrimination, where 1 is failing and 5 is excellent, and the average was between average and poor, didn't even get above average. I think that was really eye-opening. I think that would be something that I would want council to be aware of. This is how our survey respondents feel about the current situation in the city of Salem.
Yeah, and a pretty similar result to the previous year as well.
Was it? Okay.
So it's a consistent theme, I think we can say, now that we've done the survey 3 different times. We've seen consistently, and again, the way that Unsheltered rated it was even below poor. It was between poor and failing. And it really showed us the level of difference in the experience. Yeah, I think that's one also that the reporter noticed last time and included in a big way in the story. So it would be good for us to highlight that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Well, feel like I have really good takeaways and notes to draft away at this stuff and have a good plan of attack for sharing this out with reporters. Anything further we want to talk about with regards to the survey tonight? Well, we will have more opportunities to talk surveys, I'm sure, in coming years. I think there's a desire for us to continue to repeat this and see what changes over time here in Salem. So, and how we can continue to elevate those voices of people who we don't often hear from. So, really appreciate all of that great work this year. This is not in the agenda for tonight, but I did hear from Gretchen that our participant who wrote a video script for the HRC to do sort of a little commercial for us that would air on CCTV is now available to record their story. So we are behind the scenes coordinating with that person to be able to have this little commercial about what HRC does for people who call in and ask for our help. So there will be more to come on that in the hopefully in the coming month before our next meeting. And that, I think, is the totality of our formal agenda. Do we have any member remarks and announcements tonight? All right, well, I will be clicking and clacking and typing up some good notes in the next couple weeks, and there will be some things shared probably over email for people to take a look at and respond to. And in the meantime, our next meeting is, as always, the fourth Wednesday of the, is that right? It's the fourth Wednesday or the third? It's the fourth Wednesday of the month in July. So I will see you then. I don't know, Marilyn, are we getting close to where our meetings are going to be potentially in person in the future?
Well, we did talk about that. Kathy, did you have some notes from today's communication team where they talked about boards and commissions coming back into person?
I think we did have some discussion about it. I didn't really take any notes today, but you know, we've been committed to following the governor's reopening schedule, basically. And so, you know, we're still waiting for that 70%. We don't know what's going to happen when the governor's emergency order expires on the 28th. So that could play into the future. But yeah, we have been discussing, you know, the idea of keeping it open, but also maybe continuing with a hybrid model that might be able to accommodate more people, because a number of folks have mentioned that they like being able to watch online and participate online because of the, you know, some people are older or have, you know, mobility issues and things like that. So that might be something to consider as you move forward.
Long as, you know, I was just going to add along the same lines. I think the conversations have been that, you know, when we reach 70% and there's these lift, we'll be able to meet in person, but we don't want to lose all the great things that we've learned about helping people access meetings in different ways. And so really exploring what a hybrid would look like we've just learned too much to go back. And we know how important it is to people to have those options. So we hope to know a little bit more in a shorter period of time, but right now they just keep saying, stay tuned, be patient a little bit longer into the month of July before we have some real answers.
It may be worth having a good discussion at the HRC about meeting accessibility, because in the hybrid model, you want to make sure that interpretation is appropriate, whether the person is participating from online or participating in person will make a difference for how that interpretation is set up. So yeah, really good. That's really cool to hear that you are talking about the lessons learned.
And that dual kind of interpretation concern is definitely something we're trying to troubleshoot and problem solve right now. So
Cool. Well, outstanding. Any, I don't know how we got in the rabbit hole. I probably did that. Any further member remarks and announcements? All right. Well, with that, I think our meeting is adjourned.